Hey guys, the Common Man here. So today I've got in front of me a pretty cool knife, one that's been out for a while and one that was kind of a long time coming for me and for the channel. Let's go ahead and open it up and take a look. Obviously we've got a Hogue knives, a manual Hogue knife. Comes in a very nice little zipper pouch, small zipper pouch. It's kind of funny seeing how small this is compared to, say, the Savivi zipper pouch. Pretty small. Just an interesting detail I thought I'd point out. And you can see what we have is the Hogue Deka. This particular model is going to be in the MagnaCut blade steel with the Wharncliffe style blade, and I guess it's kind of like a compound Wharncliffe, I guess you could say. And it's actually got the polymer handle. I decided to go with the polymer handle instead of the G10 for a couple of reasons I'll touch on in a little bit. Obviously this is basically a direct competitor to the Benchmade Bug Out. I like the Benchmade Bug Out, I've held it, but for the price, you're getting a little bit lesser blade steel, the S30V versus the MagnaCut, and you are getting the same handle material. And to be completely honest with you guys, I kind of feel like this felt a little bit better than the Bug Out by a very small margin, and really just in the action pretty much alone. That's where I felt like this had a little bit of a leg up. But again, for the money, and similar materials, less, a lower quality blade steel, I couldn't justify the price of the Bug Out, and this guy was right in that sweet spot. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the blade. This is obviously in the MagnaCut steel. Like I said before, you can see a little bit of billboarding. Personally, I kind of wish they put it up on this flat here. I don't know why I don't really care for it being right there versus right here, but whatever. Very interesting blade style. You can see it's kind of like a compound grind, almost like I guess you could call it like a Tanto kind of style. I love the very low tip, but look at how they did this edge, how they did this grind. It's very unique. You can see they actually changed the, there we go, move that light so we can see a little bit better. There we go. Oh, that's much better. Okay, so get this guy to stop shaking. I'm using a really cheap camera mount. Maybe I'll upgrade at some point, but anyway. You can see that they have a compound blade grind here. It's actually a little bit thicker behind the edge down here than up here, and it also is at a less steep angle on that grind, so it doesn't go up quite as far up the blade. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. I think theoretically it makes sense. In the real world use, I don't really know if it's going to really make a difference, but it leaves this front section much more slicey, which generally this is where you want that sliciness. And then back here where you may get into some of that harder cutting, you're going to have a little bit more robustness behind that edge, which is pretty cool. It's a good idea. We'll see how it works out. I probably wouldn't know the difference if they hadn't done this, but kind of cool, and it adds to the look of it. It's a very nice transition between those two edges, the two flats on the edges. You can see it's not like a very sharp Tanto transition. It does have a little bit of a kind of a smoothness as it makes that transition. And again, a very nice low, very pointy tip, but with enough meat behind it where you're not going to be afraid of snapping that off. And in MagnaCut, you've got a little bit of toughness in there. It's a fairly tough knife steel. And to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons I wanted the MagnaCut. This is the version that I wanted specifically. Well, besides the DLT exclusive that I missed out on with MagnaCut and G10, and it had the, it had that like stippled G10. It was, yeah, that's the one. Anyway, that was also pretty expensive, but I wanted the MagnaCut over the 20CV because I do like the added corrosion resistance, and I know this is coated. The blade is coated, so that's going to help in corrosion resistance, making the blade steel probably a little less significant. But I always enjoy that added protection because my pockets, they tend to rust knives. And this is for me a warm weather, light, cargo shorts or lightweight shorts kind of knife. Because it's so lightweight, it's going to fit great in that use. Where corrosion, I think, is going to be a potential. I go to the beach a lot, and I sweat. So I wanted that. And I realize it may not hold an edge quite as long as the 20CV, but you know what? It's fine. The added toughness is also a benefit. Yeah, I think it's going to work out great. It's got a nice bit of jimping up here. I like the overall look of that blade. I didn't before when I first saw these, but it grew on me. It's kind of interesting. Go ahead and move back to the handle here. I told you it's the polymer scales, and you can see it actually, if we can see, it is actually, I'd call it milled out, but it's not milled. It's just in the injection process, they left cavities down in these scales, making them even more lightweight. They are surprisingly rigid, however, they do have a fair amount of flex to them, probably about the same as the Bug Out, and this does have a similar kind of cartridge style liner that the Bug Out would have, although it is a little bit different. Hogue did update this, and they eliminated a couple of screws, which I think was a really great idea, and I think it even most likely stiffened this up just a hair, having those come right into this back spacer, or this kind of standoff here. But anyway, pretty good handle design, I think. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of crosshatch pattern. That's why when DLT came out with their exclusive with the G10, the stippled G10, that was really, really sweet. And, that kind of brings me to another point of another reason I selected this particular knife with the polymer handle. This guy was $144, I think, right out the door. And I did buy this in a shop. I recommend, if you have the opportunity, try to buy your knives from local shops if you can. Certainly buy from the online retailers, but when you can, I always love to support local business and, small shops. So anyway, I bought this from a small shop in Frederick, Maryland, and I'm very happy. So it was a good price as well. But anyway, I digress. That leads me back to the scales. The reason I selected the polymer is because I knew at some point I am likely going to put aftermarket scales on this. I was looking at the original GOAT scales. I know they have aluminum. I think they have some titanium. I might give that a shot. It's going to increase the weight of the knife, I'm sure. But again, knowing that I was looking at new scales at some point, didn't make sense to pay more for the G10 when the construction's all the same, and it's just going to cost you more in the long run when you get new scales. So the whole package is going to cost more is what I mean. But anyway, that's why I selected this particular knife. I like the MagnaCut, and I'm going to replace the scales at some point, most likely. And then why I say most likely is because actually the longer I carry and use this knife, the more this polymer is actually kind of growing on me, or really just becoming less of an issue. It does feel cheap. Again, it's got some play in there. It's got that plasticky feel, but this guy is so lightweight. I mean, it's incredible. This thing weighs absolutely nothing. You forget it's in your pocket. You can wear this in basketball shorts and forget it's in your pocket. And that's saying a lot. I think that's really incredible. And that's what I bought this knife for, is just to have, a very, very lightweight, thin option for a nice size carry knife. You don't have to resort to carrying like the Baby Banter or something tiny like that. It really is a good size package for the weight. It's hard to beat, honestly. Let's go ahead and talk about the action. The action is another thing on this knife that I was just blown away with. It is rock solid on the lockup. I guess they call it the Able lock for Hogue, is just the smoothest operation. It is so smooth. I haven't had a Benchmade that was this smooth, this drop shutty, and this solid on the lockup. Of course, you can tune them over time. They'll probably match this, but this guy was like this out of the box, and that's what impressed me the most. I'm really, really impressed with this, and I know that they didn't just select me the best one. I really think that they just grabbed one out of their inventory and gave it to me, which means that hopefully that means that pretty much all of these should be like this, or at least similar to this, and that's super impressive. And for considerably less money than its rival, the Benchmade Bug Out in particular. Yeah, I was just blown away. Again, just so smooth, and I don't just mean smooth in the pivot. I mean smooth in the whole action, from disengaging that lock to the drop to the shut. Just so buttery smooth, and I'm very happy. I hope everyone else with the Deka has the same experience as me, because that really makes this knife for me, or at least is one of the big factors that I love. So that's the action. Really, really good. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is running on phosphor bronze washers. which is another reason I'm so impressed with the solid lockup, smooth drop shutty action. Washers can be hard to tune, or at least take some time to get to that point, so it's extremely impressive. Another thing that I really love about this knife is that pocket clip, that super deep carry pocket clip. The only thing that's actually in the way of your pocket, the hem on your pocket, is going to be those screws that are popping up, which doesn't matter to me. That's not a big deal. They could have countersunk the screws, but I really don't see that snagging in your pocket, so it's not an issue. Only problem I really have with a pocket clip is that this bill, it goes up and then it shoots straight out. I don't like that because I have actually already had that become kind of an issue. I had it grab on a couple of things already, which I'm kind of surprised for this knife. It doesn't generally happen to me that quickly with a new knife, but this one did happen pretty quick. So I do wish that was just an upsweep and just stayed up. Thankfully, it didn't deform the knife clip. It didn't stretch it out or anything. So, but definitely a change I would make. And pocket clip, who knows? Maybe I'll get a new one at some point. But this one, honestly, is just fine, and it looks great. Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about this knife, guys. It's really awesome. It's one of those ones that, I got it, I took it out of the package, I immediately liked it, and then I started carrying it, and I liked it even more. I'm extremely happy with this knife. Let's go ahead and get a size comparison, because this guy, just to show, this is on the smaller end, although it is, I think it's a really good EDC size. We'll go ahead and compare it up against something that's very similar in size, and that's going to be the Para 3. This guy's probably going to be pretty comparable to the Para 3 Lightweight. I know the Bug Out and the Para 3 Lightweight were in close competition, and this is certainly right in the same, right in that same area. Same kind of similar use knife. Very lightweight, relatively compact, but still nice and robust. Good hard use knife. So you can see very similar in size there. We'll go ahead and get that out of here. We'll go ahead and do the classic Paramilitary 2. Another size comparison. You can see it's considerably smaller than the Paramilitary 2, and then another knife that I'm sure people are very familiar with, and that is the Civivi Elementum. Very similar in size to the Elementum, although it is just a hair bigger. Elementum I would consider to be certainly on the smaller side for EDC knives, but you can see not a huge difference, just a little bit bigger with the Hogue Deka, and I really love this Elementum button lock. That thing's very fidgety, very fun. And that kind of, I guess, leads me to the last point, and that is, I guess, fidget factor. I don't generally talk about fidget factor with knives. I find myself kind of fidgeting with my knives, playing with them and stuff, but that's not something that really sells me on a knife usually. It's just like a little added thing. For this, it's a pretty big added thing, bigger than usual, because it is really, for me, this thing is just so natural for me to just kind of, and you notice that I'm giving it the finger flick, the reverse flick. You just catch it right there and just boom, and it just deploys like nothing. For me, it's even better than the thumb stud open, which is great. Either one is a great deployment method, but man, that reverse flick, you just can't beat it. Keep your fingers right where they need to be. You can, access that able lock to disengage the lock, no problem. You can see I can do this all day. And I'm not going to lie, on my way home from the shop, I was doing this while I was driving. Probably not too safe, but I was. And it's hard to resist. Anyway, guys, incredible knife. Took me a long time to get it. Again, my recommendation to you guys, because of the price of this guy and the price difference between this and the G10, if you're buying one of these with the intention of changing nothing, keeping it exactly the same, I'd probably spend the extra money for the G10 and the 20 CV blade steel. But if you know that changing out the scales at some point is a likelihood, then you save the money. Buy this guy. You're getting the MagnaCut, which is still an incredible blade steel. You're getting these polymer handles, which are good enough, until you decide what scales you want, and save a little bit of money in that way. But also the G10, like I said, great option, well worth the money, even though it is a little bit more, no problem there. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this knife. If you guys love it, hate it, this versus the Bug Out, which is better. Let me know what you think. And if you guys want to see more of my videos, please consider subscribing. Thanks. Bye-bye.